Welcome to Smalltalk Daily for Thursday, January 22nd, 2009. This morning I'd like to go through some of the command line options that are available to you as a Cincom Smalltalk user at the VM level. There are really two sets of command line options, one that are sent to the VM and one that are sent to the image. Any arguments you provide on the command line after the image name are going to the image. Any ones before the image name go to the VM. And if you want to know what those are, if you send this -? option to the VM without an image, it'll print all of them. Now I've made the font a little bigger here, so I'm going to have to scroll back up to see what some of these are. So let's scroll back up just a little bit, and you'll see here I have the usage, and then here are the options. -GUI, we're not going to go into depth on that. This is a way to replace the GUI libraries that are in the VM with your own. Unless you're an expert, this is something you probably don't want to be bothered with. Let's go down here, -H bytes. You can increase the size of the heap at startup. -IEEFP, you can change the float primitives to answer properly for not a number. -L policy is an interesting one because you can override the image load policy at startup. Take all of the objects, move them into perm space with the promote option. Demote, move them all from perm space down into old space, and normal, just let it do whatever you left the image as. Useful options, you can do this at the command line. You don't need to have preset the image. -No herald, don't have it put a splash screen or any text out to standard out. -V just displays engine and image version information. That's a useful one here because you'll often be asked this information by support. When you come to support and say I'm having a problem with blah, one of the things they'll often ask you is what version information can you give me, so that they can tell exactly what problem you're having based on maybe it's an older version of the product, maybe you're using a VM that you shouldn't be using, all those kinds of things. Support will ask you this kind of question. -XQ, generate a stack dump. That's very useful because oftentimes, if you have an image that's not working quite properly, getting a stack dump is hard at the image level, but you can just have it drop right here at the VM level. -Z, make this part of the VM's memory zone bigger. And then what I just did, -?, display this help. Now this one you don't really need to worry about the -= because it used to be that on the Mac you needed this to specify a command line argument for the image. Don't need to do that anymore. That's about it for the standard VM arguments. However, there's one additional one that you might want to know about. Let me move that PDF out of the way. I'm going to bring up one that will be useful to you to use if you have problems with an image that just won't start at all. Now, this is obviously something that's not going to be done right now. I'm going to start an image, so I'm going to do macx dbg. If you look into the virtual machine directory for your platform, you'll find a set of debug engines. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to pass it -O, not 0O, 10S, and then an image name. I'm just going to pass it team.im, which is one I have that has support for store loaded into it. So I'll hit that. You're now going to see a whole mess of information fly by, because what's going on is every single message send that executes is being passed into this output, into standard out. If I wanted to save this, for instance, I wanted to call support and tell them my image isn't working, I could drop this into a file through a redirect at the command line, and then when they asked me for this kind of information, I could say, here, let me email it to you. So let me move this down a little bit, go to the image, and as I click into this, you'll start seeing more things happening because every action is being logged out there. So as I quit the image, file, exit, and then hit no, noticed a bunch more information dropped. So every single thing that was going on was dropping out. Highly useful piece of information. It wasn't necessarily obvious which command line option I used because it went by too quick, so let me go up, and there it is. The debug engine, -O 10S, and then the image name, and that'll drop you all this useful debug information, which, if you're dealing with support and have a problem, they're going to find very useful. Or if they don't find it specifically useful, our engineers that it gets kicked back to will find it useful. So that's about it for today. I think I'll leave it at the VM options for today, and tomorrow I'll go through command line options that can go to the image. So we'll leave it there, and until next time, have fun with Smalltalk.